Hey guys, First Regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about the new weekly hard stratagem number 6 in Space Marine 2 and the best builds and classes to complete this. Now, the new weekly we have here is definitely easier than last week. Before we had the multiple terminus one on Box Liberatus. That one was brutal, by far the hardest we have had so far. This one is significantly easier. Here we have Decapitation with the Battlefield Conditions, Technological Revolution, Ability Charge Restoration is significantly faster, Armor Malfunction, Dodge rolls cause you to take a small amount of damage, this by far being the worst one, and on the clock, the mission has a timer which can be extended by kills and checkpoints. If the timer runs out, the mission is aborted. Now, this last one here on the clock is so forgiving in the time it gives you that it basically doesn't exist as a modifier, so really we're only playing with Technological Revolution and Armor Malfunction. Now, Armor Malfunction can be very difficult for a lot of players. The amount of chip damage you take from this is quite significant, and being unable to dodge without damage feels pretty bad. So some ways we're going to circumvent this are going to be with the Assault class in a Wings of Flame build. This is what I used to actually solo this mission. Basically, I just took Defense Mechanism here, which was the perk added into patch 9.0. Contested health fades 50% more slowly. The way the dodging damage works is like the chip damage is not super high. It's just very obnoxious. It damages your armor, leaves you vulnerable, and having that slower CHP fade helps a ton with getting your HP back. So this is very beneficial. On the flip side of this, I do want to talk about the Bulwark's team perk as well, which is the exact same thing, Advanced Conditioning. Contested health fades 50% more slowly for all of your squad members. Now, the way this really comes into play with Armor Malfunction is that there are a lot of points in the game where you'll simply not want to dodge as much, because dodging means you'll take that extra damage, you'll be shot by chip damage and things like that because of this. And just having a slower HP fade just helps a ton in this game in general. Obviously, if you keep dodge rolling, you will just like tick down your CHP regardless, but still helps quite a bit. Now, something else I want to mention are armor restoration perks, things like the Banner starting perk or chapter ability here, and the perk up here, Focus Restoration. Every 30 seconds, all of your squad members automatically restore one armor segment. Now, if you're unaware, in Space Marine 2, any amount of armor remaining will reduce the next incoming melee hit to 0 damage. This is a Tyranid mission, so there are a ton of warriors, or like the Hive Tyrant or Carnifex. This helps a ton. And giving armor back to teammates like your tactical and stuff like that have no armor regen on their own without things like a block weapon is super powerful. This is definitely a top tier perk. You really can't go wrong with either of these options. I think these are two of the best perks here for this operation for sure. Now, something else I want to mention is the perk down here, Armor Reinforcement. Non-finisher gun strikes restore one armor segment. I would take this on both the Bulwark and the Assault class this week, because basically getting your armor back as like a drip fed tool to you is super valuable in this game already, and on this modifier especially, this is just saving you so much HP, especially when you stack it with things like Advanced Conditioning to get your CHP back even more easily once you actually break your armor, which is a very strong ability. And honestly, Armor Reinforcement is by far the best perk in this row currently, at least for Assault, because Assault does have a broken overcharge perk outside of everything except for the Thunderhammer currently, so just keep that in mind. And Armor Reinforcement has always been very powerful versus Tyranids. Now, something else I want to mention here is the Wings of Flame ability. I did solo this with a Wings of Flame build. Now, this reads, a jump pack dash damages enemies along its trajectory and always works as a perfect dodge when dodging an attack. Basically, you can just have a perfect iframe along your entire jump pack dash. Now, jump pack dash will still trigger the Armor Malfunction proc, where like you take the damage off a dodge. That's kind of unfortunate, but if you combine this with things like Commitment, a perfect time dodge using a jump pack dash restores jump pack's ability charge, you'll do a bunch of free damage, especially to the Hive Tyrant, and you just get a gun strike set up and blow them away with Armor Reinforcement in the perk here, Proven Efficiency, which is why I took the weapon here, Heavy Bolt Pistol, because this one has the highest overall gun strike damage in the entire game. And alternatively, you could take a Rate of Fire Plasma Pistol, because this one also has a pretty high gun strike damage of this perk and has an AoE gun strike effect. So both very powerful options, by far the two best in this game. And as far as other options go, aside from things like Assault and Bulwark, which are obviously pretty good for this, the Heavy class can use things like the Multi-Melta to just simply stagger enemies over and over. The Heavy and Bulwark especially are the two tankiest classes in Space Marine 2, so having things like Restoration here for drip fed armor restore, Fortitude for 30% increase to HP, and the perk down here, Conviction, when your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. These can help you a ton in survivability even without armor. Heavy is a class that has very easy CHP recovery already with things like the Multi-Melta. When you stack this with perks like Advanced Conditioning, your survivability is just going through the roof, especially versus Tyranids, because Tyranids are easier than Chaos currently, and this class already kind of decimates them, and Multi-Melta is a top tier gun for sure. Now, for the heaviest team perk selection here, I would take Encompassing Aegis. All of your squad members take 25% less damage from range attacks. This is already an incredibly powerful team perk in the base operations. With the armor malfunction modifier, it is even better, because there are times where you simply can't dodge, you'll be hit by a melee attack or things like that with no armor remaining, and having that reduced chip damage versus range attacks or hitting you simultaneously will help a ton. Now, I also want to mention that the multi-melted build setup we have here does take a perk like Trick Shot. Killing 5 enemies with one shot restores an armor segment. Cooldown is 30 seconds. Having this built-in armor restore on our guns helps a ton as well, because once again, really all that armor restoration in Space Marine 2 is a free damage reduction, and getting armor back while we were taking all this free chip from things like armor malfunction helps a ton. So having these perks really benefits us. And as far as the best build comp goes for Space Marine 2, it is currently Heavy Bulwark Tactical or Heavy Bulwark Vanguard. I know, very daring today, aren't we? And for the perk tree on the Vanguard class, you have very powerful abilities like Unmasked Zeal, melee finishers of Extremis or Terminus level enemies additionally restore health by 30% for any squad member. Or alternatively, if you don't want to take this, you want to have like an Invigorating Icon Bulwark instead, you could just take Inner Fire. All of your squad members can restore ability charge by 15% by performing finishers on Majoris level or higher enemies. Now, the description on this perk is actually incorrect. You do not actually have to do a finisher with Inner Fire to trigger it. You only have to kill a Majoris with any method whatsoever, so it's even better than it looks. And the real use case scenario for this perk, in my opinion, if you're going for like a meta team comp or something, is using the Bulwark banner with Invigorating Icon. You get so many more banners off of the Inner Fire perk that you really don't need to take things like Unmasked Zeal on a team comp like that, so just keep that in mind. Though I will say it will take more coordination than, say, like a normal Unmasked Zeal, because this is a global heal, and you kind of have to coordinate to actually get that banner heal off, so just keep that in mind. Now, as far as the second best class, or best class depending on who you ask for this team comp, Tactical is also very strong. The perk Secure Stockpile, equipment charge restored by 1 for all of your squad members, cooldown in 60 seconds. This is arguably the best team perk in the entire game. Having this perk simply allows you to spam out 60-second crack grenades, frag grenades, shock grenades, and of course Melt-A-Bombs. Melt-A-Bombs basically removing Extremis reinforcements outright all on their own. So incredibly powerful ability. And also I want to mention the boss nuking potential of this build, using things like Precise Calibration and Concentrated Fire. Now, Concentrated Fire says Auspex Scan Zone lasts 60% longer, and the enemies marked by Auspex Scan take an additional 120% damage, but they lose a mark when they leave the scanned area. This perk combined with the perk over here, Precise Calibration, that reads enemies marked by Auspex Scan take an additional 75% damage, but your Auspex Scan radius is reduced by 25%. They do stack. The boss damage potential with these two on like an Auspex here is kind of absurd. You can basically one-shot some of the bosses with like a Block Fist and stuff like that when this Auspex is down. It's kind of absurd how much damage it does, and naturally the hardest part of most stratagems is going to be the boss fight, because as of patch 8.0, absolute difficulty will dispense 2 boss fights at you, or at least a potential of 2 boss fights per mission. Now, on an operation like Decapitation, where you have an end of mission boss like the Hive Tyrant, you can only find a potential of 1 boss like a Carnifex or a Neurothrope in those missions, because the final terminus does count for like that 2 max caps, just keep that in mind. But either way, being able to nuke down a Carnifex or a Neurothrope, which is going to be the hardest part of your mission, basically instantaneously with a bit of coordination, is super valuable and just helps a ton, which is why I like the Tactical in general for any team comp, because DPS is very important at times. At least like boss nuking is very important, because without that, you know, when they sit in the field, when they do their thing over and over, like a Neurothrope wave or Carnifex artillery or just ramming people over, the longer they are on the field, the more damage you are likely to take, and the harder your mission is going to be. So removing them immediately is very powerful. Now, I also want to mention some of the weapons that are very valuable for these classes, like Tactical or Vanguard. Now, Vanguard obviously has the Melter Rifle. I think the range variant of the Melter Rifle is currently the best. As of patch 9.0, they did buff up the damage fall off of this. It is a very strong weapon, and obviously it has the perk down here, Trick Shot. Killing 5 enemies with 1 shot restores an armor segment. Cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, just like the Multi-Melta, this is an incredible perk, and also the Vanguard has other sources of armor regen in his Prestige perk tree, things like Launch Restoration, using the Grapnel Launcher restores an armor segment, or the perk Restoration. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores an armor segment, cooldown is 15 seconds, and on top of all of this, he has absurd damage reduction, things like Conviction and Thrill of the Fight, which is kind of funny because this class has both more armor regen and more damage reduction than the Assault, but we'll rant about the assault some other time. And now, as far as the tactical's best weapon goes, I would say it is by far the Pyre Blaster just does stupid amounts of burn damage. The CHP recovery on this kind of sucks, but the amount of horde control you have and boss damage is just kind of broken currently. And to make up for that CHP recovery, I would take a rate of fire plasma pistol, because the CHP recovery, damage output, stagger is just top tier on this thing, and it really fills in any gap that this weapon has. And you also take perks like plasma boost to get boosted up even further. So a really powerful option. And of course, the perk here rating impact is super overperforming all the time, so just keep that in mind. Now, that is pretty much all there is for the build suggestions here. I would say Bulwark with Power Fist is probably the strongest as well. Power Fist is kind of broken in this game. Block Fist plus Auspex will just one-shot bosses at times, like I mentioned before. And as far as the other modifier goes here, the timer one, which is reading on the clock. The mission has a timer which can be extended by kills and checkpoints. The timer runs out, the mission is aborted. This modifier should honestly be buffed, because it doesn't even exist for the mission currently. You'll often end with like 40 extra minutes, even in solo. Super busted modifier, to be honest, and hopefully they buff that at some point, or maybe just get rid of it entirely. Either way, guys, that's all I have to say in this one. If this helped you, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully it did. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Bye.